in that span of time, obviously their best results came against Fnatic. So I want to ask you, how would you describe kennyS when he was at his peak? Because obviously he had a slump after that. Maybe some newer fans didn't see him back then. You got to play against. What was it actually like in that period of time?
I mean, of course, he was like the best player individually, I guess. So, but the thing was that, including myself and probably many others as well, was that you started to fear him, because you started to think that he is godlike or whatever, like you can't kill him. Like, I think that was something that he took advantage of very, very much at that time, and I think that is the biggest difference to now. People don't really. Sure, he have been in a slump and all that, but the most important factor right now, I would say, is that people don't fear him the same way they did back then, I think. So, I mean, playing against him at that time was always difficult because he always picked apart your team wherever he went, and you had almost no answers for it.
Now, from late 2014, we're talking like September, October onwards, to early 2015, kennyS is the bonjour. Especially, he was already a god. He was already potentially the best team when his team won DreamHack Stockholm and he was the MVP. But when Kaylee got banned, it's like the vacuum of the fact the team needed even more fragging, even from the best player. Somehow that lit something in him and made him an absolute god. And the level he reached was so high, I actually think I can say it was even higher to some degree than GetRight's peak early in CSGO, because he was against one of the most competitive eras ever. Remember, it comes into this year, like 2014 to early 2015. So we're talking like 6 month span. And he was literally in some games playing 1v5, and he was playing 2v5, and he was just dominating, and he would have to beat the other team's best player and the other team's second best player, and sometimes double their frag count, and sometimes his team could still lose the game. This is how fucking incredible this guy was, and he was doing it as an AWPer. The whole point of the AWPer was, if you do gamble and you give this guy glass cannon AWPs and that sort of thing, that's going to massively impact your economy. No, if you did that on Titan, you would win fucking games that way. You would win games with an AWP for kennyS and a Galil for someone else and no guns and everyone else. You could win those rounds. This is how fucking unreal this guy was. Something I'll go into detail in the future in some content about, because I don't think people, especially the people who only came around like 6 months ago, they don't realize how insane that span of time was, and how in a team that should have been like the 8th best team in the world, he made him like the 5th or 6th best team and was putting them into finals and top 4s routinely. That's how fucking godlike this guy was.
So that's the thing with Kenny. Like, he matures with the year in the game, and out of the game he will stay the same person. And not being a bad thing, but he evolves as a player. It just takes time, and it takes simple experience. Like, it's hard to tell Kenny. I mean, how can I say it? But to explain to him the meta game and how things work, and like, if there is that rotation, if there is this, that, you need to do this or adapt to that. Like, he's a player that works with instinct. And so he's just living the game when he's playing it, and it's hard to just make him think a lot and in a deep stages of the game while he is shooting at the opponents. So he just came back with more experience and with some motivation back.
So, okay, aside from but he's started to return, and now he is the star of Envious. He's the stable force who's consistently going to be very good, who's going to top frag, and other people come in and join him. It's Happy one game, or it's NBK every now and then, or it's Apex with a flashback, crazy 25, 30 kill performance. And the key thing is, we've got the numbers now. We've got the run of form. Basically, kennyS was having like the odd flashback tournament or the odd game earlier in the year, getting it together, because I mean the big fool's gold had been the Game Show Global Esports Cup in February, because he had a super good tournament there, but it wasn't as sick teams, and then afterwards his level went down again. So at E-League is where he really broke out again. They even said, we're trying to base the game more on kennyS. I think it was MBK said in an interview, we're trying to work it this way. It was when they still hadn't brought Happy in as the leader again. They had Devil at the time. He had a really good E-League. And then you go into the major, Cologne, and the whole team did poorly there. They finished last place again at another major. But then every tournament after that, it's basically started with E-League, it dropped off for Cologne, and every tournament since then, it's been getting better and better, and he's playing at a very high level. So we had DreamHack Bucharest, really good performance. Star Series, actually that was before the Bucharest. Again, solid performance, really big numbers, good fragging, up all the time. Gfinity, he was one of the best players there. He only didn't win the MVP because Apex was so phenomenal at that one. Then he had the WESG Europe. Okay, that was the one tournament out of these ones I'm naming that's a little bit whack. But even then, they played Virtus Pro. You know, they played some of the decent teams, not just purely scrubs. They also played Astralis. Then we obviously had EPL Season 4, where they made top 6, but they had to play NIP and they lost. So he's back to numerically, statistically, we're talking about back at sick numbers. Absolutely, in terms of stats, you can make a case he's the best AWPer in the world. I think, in general, from looking with the eye test and watching these tournaments, I think he already is the best AWPer in the world. The only person I think you can make a case for at the moment being better is actually Simple, but then Simple himself isn't like primarily AWPing. Like, he does use it a lot, but he's also going to switch it up with rifles, etc. So I think that will be an interesting battle. I want to see over the next few months, because Simple at the moment, in my opinion, is the best. So was it true that last year when Envious, I remember it was around like the summer, because it was like E-League Season 1, I heard that the you guys in Envious did kind of like, I mean, you tried everything else with the team, you know, the results weren't so good. That was when I remember you saying that you were trying to like make kennyS more of a focal point, you know, like get him the AWP as much as possible, set him up a bit, you know, and it worked for a little while, you know. It looked like it was kind of a way to have something consistent, you know, because obviously a lot of the players were up and down at that time in the team. Were you one of the people kind of leading that? I know in Envious you were kind of the one setting the pace to some degrees as to what ideas or what direction we go in.
Yeah, especially on the city side, because at that point, that's around when I started being the city side leader. So I was calling on the city side, and I mean, you can work with Kenny pretty easily because you can be confident that he's going to hit his shots when you set him up pretty good, and so I worked with that principle of Kenny being our the opening into the round that we needed in order to have a good city side, and yeah, I mean, on the T side, I think it's quite hard, especially with the approach that Happy has with the game. So it was really hard to work around kennyS. But yeah, especially on the city side, I tried to push him more and more into him being more proactive with the op and kind of like running around the map like Device is doing currently.
During this period when, as I've alluded to, it was the prime of kennyS, you know, this is when he hit his top level, and obviously it was before the AWP nerf, so it's hard for anyone to have that level after that. What was kennyS like in his prime as an individual player?
Yeah, Kenny was, I mean, with Existence, everything was created for Kenny. All the game was around him. So he had a lot of confidence, and back then, he played a lot when we had the gaming house in Brussels. He played so much. Every 2 weeks, he had minimum 100 hours. So everything helped him to be a really good player and a star player as he was, as he still is, but he was even a biggest one. And yeah, he had like, his AVP was so good. I remember how many times I just bought him an AVP for Tech 9. I did it so many times for him because I felt that he could be something huge in that run. And many times it happened. So that wasn't a waste of money, for sure.
So you said earlier that at this time, you know, you felt like, I mean, even without having Kaylee, you felt like, you know, if I join a server, it's going to be fun because, you know, basically you can do whatever you want. At the time, did you think that you were the best CSGO player?
At this time?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I thought I was. Yeah, I think I thought I was. Yeah.
Okay. Because one thing I remember, but this is before the AWP got nerfed, was one thing that whenever I watched your games, like I watched a lot of the really good AWPers. So like I saw like Guardian, Skadoodle, like all these guys who were around back then. But one thing that I noticed you were very, very good at before the nerf was like hitting no scopes, or like, I mean, technically it's a quick scope, you know what I mean? Whether you do the right click, right? Whenever you did this, like famously in CSGO, unlike 1.6, it's not 100% accurate, you know. They can't, like if you ever put on that box that shows where it goes, you know, it can go all over the place sometimes. But you hit a lot of these shots. Now I noticed that in later days, I've actually seen that like Simple's pretty good doing those, and whenever I've seen him like warm up and on stream, did you have kind of like a trick to it? Was there like a counter strafe trick or something that other people hadn't figured out? Because it seemed like you were very, very good compared to even the other good AWPers.
I think what makes the difference with AWPers like me and like the really elite ones and the others is the knowledge we have of the weapon. And like, I really got good when I played a lot. and I was really focused on pushing the limits of the weapon, on what I can do with the AWP, and like I know everything perfectly about the weapon. I know when to quickscope. I know. I just know it so perfectly that I know what to do in the exact moment. But as I said, my game style is really instinctive, and quickscope itself is something pretty instinctive as well.
Sure.
If it makes sense. Like, I mean, I have a huge ego. I have my ego, but I would never I've never come into TeamSpeak and say, what the fuck is wrong? Why I'm not the star player? Especially it was working. Like, I mean,
sure.
The 6 first months in Envious were working pretty well, and that was Happy wanted things to go. Even though I'm not gonna lie, I didn't exactly listen to what he was asking me to do, because, for example, if I was doing everything he was asking me to do, I would not have had the hope on T side, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, like he didn't want me to hope on T side most of the maps.
Why though? What's the theory?
Because he really liked to have 5 rifles. He will like to play a bit quick. He will like to play like stacked. But yeah, like the thing is, like one of my strengths is also playing like very close with the AWP, so I don't mind rushing with an AWP. So yeah, during some tournaments, I just didn't really listen to what he was asking me to do. Not like everything, right?
Yes.
But I was doing my own thing sometimes, and it was working, and it was during tournaments, so you could not say much.
One of the other things about the French scene that you have to learn when you come into it is people like Shoxy, kennyS, dude, they're like unicorns. They're just like mythical creatures that you just see in the distance, and no one knows how they operate, how they work. What you do is you go up to them and you go, shh, come here. You bring them a little carrot, and then when they come over, you try and stroke them, and then you go up. Listen, if you go too hard though, they run away like again. If they run away, there's only 2 of them in the whole world, mate. Like, well, there's 0 now. There's 3. So listen, if they get away, then you're fucked at that point. You got to be really careful with these guys.
He's a natural. He is natural, and I didn't take it in my team 15 years old because I thought it was impossible what I was witnessing back in the days. And then he had like this great career, great confidence. But same again, he was always driven by other guys around him, Apex for a very, very long time. Showing him picks, what you should do, and blah, blah, blah. Like everything, every detail. This one way, this pick, I'm with you, I'm telling you, follow me, pick after me, do this, do that, everything. This Opera is doing this. I think he always had like good surrounding during his great form.
Yes.
I think he had some crisis moment in his young adult life. It was not so happy it was difficult for him to carry everything, since we were traveling a lot, and I don't know, like it was just a tough time for him. He said it publicly a couple of times, I think. And when I came in, was like the lowest. He was like not feeling good in his life, in everything, not just yes. So it was difficult for him. He's not a hard worker. He's natural. He was not confident anymore in his game. So when you are natural and skilled, and you did what he did, he was even playing more, and it was even worse. And we had to reverse all these things. So basically, it took time. Honestly, it took a long time, actually. But I think it needs a lot of patience, because I'm getting mad with him every here and there. No, but it's love as well, I'm saying it like this, but because we have this kind of relationship where I don't want to give up on him, because he's so talented, he's a great guy, but he needs to be driven, he needs to understand some steps, and I think he's on a really, really good way.
I may not have the most supporters in the world, but the ones I do have are straight fire, and they include Pugnatio Rajcula, Frisky, Ahmed Hadjou, Torin, Tobias Bernasconi, Animosity, Tosh, Jensen Goh, and you know it always is a special thanks going out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my show? Do you want to see things I say on my Discord, little piece of straight fire I drop in the Patreon only channels, stories I tell people in the other ones? Do you want to ask a question in my monthly AMA? Do you want teasers, find out who the next guests are for Reflections interviews? Maybe you want to be one of those people who takes part in the long form discussion with me where we talk about whatever's on your mind in esports. Well, if any of those or more sound interesting, why not support me, put your money where your mouth is, and join the Scrilluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.